How's it going, everyone? In today's video, we're going to learn how we can use a local AI agent in Zed. And we're going to do this using LM Studio. And what's nice about this is that we can host our very own AI and use it directly on our computer without any internet, which is a huge win for privacy because all the data and all the code we write stays on our computer. In Zed, it will also allow us to generate some code, to fix some code, and to use AI just as we would online. For example, we could ask AI to create a function that greets people from a list of names. And when we tap on enter, it's going to do just that. And if we're satisfied with that, we can tap on this arrow to accept the generation. And that will be part of the project. Then we can use AI to do things such as generate some documentation. So here we can type in generate docs, and we can accept those changes once again. And now we have a function that greets people with documentation. And finally, we can even use AI to explain what's going on here. So if we open up the sidebar, we can type in something such as explain main.py. And the AI will scan this entire document and do its best to explain what's going on here. And just like that, it will have analyzed the project and given us a quick explanation regarding it. As you can see here, we have the overview, the purpose of what's in it, the parameters, the return value, the error handling, and some example usage, plus the design notes. So there's a lot of useful information there, generated from our own project on our computer. Obviously, it's important that you double check all of this information because this was all generated solely through AI. But that's what I'm going to show you how to do in today's video. Now, before we continue with the video, I'd just like to thank Zed for sponsoring this video. Zed is a lightning-fast code editor written in Rust, and I've been using it to do all my coding for months now. If you feel like trying out Zed, I've left a link in the description box down below where you can download it for free. Let's get back to the video. The first thing we're going to do is go to lmstudio.ai and download LM Studio, which allows us to run AI models locally and privately. Once that's done, open up LM Studio so we can search for a model to download. For this example, I'm going to be using Qwen 3.5 9b, but you can use whatever AI you like. If you prefer, you can even use Gemma. Just search for an AI and download it. Once you've downloaded an AI agent, go to Settings, and here search for the Developer section so that you can turn on Developer mode and also enable the local LLM service. Once you've finished with that, go to the Developer window. And here what you want to do is make sure that the status is set to running. And that will create a server which is reachable at this address. You'll also want to make sure that you have loaded a model. So if you don't have anything here, tap on Load Model and select the model you'd like to load. And it might be a good idea to make sure that your server settings are the same as mine. And you can always change these later. Next, on the sidebar, you're going to have all the model information. You'll have the API model identifier and where it's reachable at. On the next tab, you'll have something called the load. And this section is important because it allows you to adjust the context length. If you have a project open up in Zed and the context length is too small, it's not going to be able to understand what's going on. The context length needs to be set to a number which is large enough for the AI to understand what's going on. For this example, I've set it to 12,000. And finally, there's the Inference tab. And all I did here is provide a system prompt, which says you are dealing with code in Python. Write code directly without using backticks and place comments to explain sections. All code should include type annotations. So those were my instructions to the AI. And down below, I disabled thinking. Otherwise, it would tell me exactly what it's thinking as it thinks, which is quite annoying. Once we've done that, we can go back to Zed. And here you're going to want to open up the Settings tab so that you can navigate to AI and make sure that it is enabled. If you don't plan on using AI, you can always disable this panel, and it will remove all AI features from your project. If this is disabled and you want to use AI, make sure it's enabled. Now, in the bottom right-hand corner of this project, you'll see this star. Click on it. Here, you'll have a lot of options for which LLM providers you want to use. Scroll down all the way to LM Studio. And here you can provide the API URL, which theoretically should be the exact same one we have down here. But by default, Zed will have this URL, which should work just fine. Otherwise, you can use the other API URL. It shouldn't make a difference. And just to verify that, I'm going to start a new thread. And before you write anything, you're going to want to make sure that Qwen 3.5-9b is selected. And here you can search for a model that you want to use. Since I'm using Qwen, I have selected Qwen, which is under LM Studio. If you're using Gemma, you can search for Gemma, and that will work as well. Just make sure that whatever model you're using is loaded in LM Studio before you try to use it. But here I'm going to type in hello, and if we have set everything up correctly, we should get a response. And now we can use a shortcut such as Ctrl+Shift to generate some code. Generate a simple chatbot. And as you can see, the AI was able to do its magic. Now, whether this code works or not is another discussion, although I would like to test it because it could be fun. Hello. Well, I guess there was no loop there, so that was the entire chatbot. So it looks like the code works, but of course it's a good idea to test this chatbot thoroughly if we ever want to push this into production. Otherwise, we might be contributing to AI-generated slop. But yeah, that's all it took to set up a local AI agent in Zed. And once again, there are plenty of models to choose from. So you can pick any one of these and use them in your projects. Now, I do want to show you what happens if the context length is too short. So right here, I'm going to drag this down to 600 and reload the AI. Then inside Zed, I'm going to open up the sidebar and say hello once again. As you can see, you're going to get this error message down here that says the number of tokens to keep from the initial prompt is greater than the context length. And then you're going to end up with an error, and it's going to tell you to try to load the model with a larger context length or provide a shorter input. And a shorter input than hello doesn't exist for me. So in this case, I'm just going to extend the context length to something such as 12,000 or even more. This is something you're going to have to experiment with. So yeah, that's really all I wanted to cover in today's video. Do let me know in the comment section down below whether you have any other questions regarding this setup. But otherwise, with all that being said, as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.